Agenda right here.
That's it.
Okay.
Very straightforward.
Wait for Alex, so.
Now we'll get started. We all set? Yep. Okay. I'd like to call to order the Charlton Water and Sewer Commission meeting, November 20th, 2017. First order of business is the, I have minutes and water and sewer meetings, November 6th, 2017.
Public forum.
I missed that. I'll get it next time.
Okay.
I haven't even gone through to see if I have them here.
All right, okay.
Here we go, November 6th. I usually make a motion for that after the other ones, it doesn't matter, but you're looking for a motion for this? Or you're
Yes.
looking for,
Let's get
A
started.
second.
We'll follow the agenda, other than the public forums, which we're gonna go back to.
all right.
So do we have a set of minutes, Paul?
Yes.
Yeah,
November 6th.
I'd like, Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of November 6th, 2017, which I believe was our last meeting.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can I just see this for a second, Paul?
Yeah, I was gonna sign them before I
Okay.
pass them, and then I won't have to come back.
Jim, thank you.
There you go.
Okay, I was looking at these. Pete, have we, or Norma, have we changed the format, or is it the font that we've changed?
A little bit of both,
We did it both?
copying a little bit of this one.
Okay. Okay.
For the minutes or the agenda?
The minutes.
The minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I've got a motion and a second on the floor to approve the minutes dated November 6, 2017. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Okay, part of our format, under citizens' public forum. Is there anybody here under citizens' public forum who would like to come forward this time? Seeing and hearing from nobody, let's move forward. Let's move to warrants. Please.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the following warrants. First off, we have Osterman Propane, $344.97 for delivery, of course. And next, we have WB Mason for office supplies, $39.87. And then 508 Construction for Oxbow Road, $1,200. And Charlton PD for police detail we had on Oxbow Road, $176. And Norma Dietrich for mileage, $25.68. LaForte Electric for a service call at Howlett Lumber, $75. Again, LaForte Electric for a service call at 19 Lakeview, $150. EJ Prescott meters and ECR touchpads, $1,059.44. And then we have Peter Starkus for 29 meters that were serviced, $2,325. And we have Rico copy rental, $141.30. And then we have Franklin Electric for 98 Masonic Home, which was a grinder pump coming in piecemeal, $1,231.77. We also have 3 abatements. One was for an account set up by mistake, 13 Main Street, Charlton, $72.56. And 150 Glen Echo Shore Road, $14.10. And then 129 Sturbridge Road, which was Treehouse Brewery, $3,356.37. That'll do it.
Okay, I've got a motion on the floor. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, do we have any discussion? Any discussion on the warrants? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Passes. And that includes, I've got this abatement of 13 Main Street. That was included in that, wasn't it?
It
Paul?
was, yes, it was.
Okay. Yeah, I want to go to Violi next.
Yeah, I'll go get it.
Okay.
Want to get started on some
Yeah,
of
just
these?
want to get started on the call. Thank you.
Oh, you need this. I need this. That was mine that I left in the office, thank you.
I believe Alex just pulled in also. so.
Okay.
Here are the rest of them.
Thanks, yeah.
Did you grab the minutes, man?
I brought them to.
Okay. Everybody has a copy of the MOR, correct?
Yes.
Yeah,
Hi, Alex.
Alex.
Good evening, sir. All we've done is read the warrants and they're ready. You can grab that pink folder, ready for you to sign.
Yeah, I just want to make sure it was the same thing I had on my screen. Thank you, Mr. Romansky. All right.
You ready?
I'm ready. Want to start with
Keith, you guys ready? I believe we're going to begin with the monthly operating report for October and then move on to the, kind of cover the I&I study that was done and move forward from there.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.
Same to you, everybody. Too.
So our report for the month of October, we had no safety accidents or incidents. The monthly safety checklist was completed. And for the month of October, we completed our training, safety training. In regards to compliance, we had an exceedance on ammonia. The permit limit is 1.42, and our average for the month was a 3.28. We're still doing a root cause. We don't have the exact answer of what caused the ammonia exceedance, whether process-related equipment. So we're doing a root cause analysis to find out where it happened and how. So with the attached plant performance, you'll see the exceedance for the ammonia. Under operations and maintenance of the treatment plant, we had our weekly and monthly checklist completed for maintenance. The generator full load exercise is completed weekly. There's been no issues. It's been doing very well. Last of the lawn maintenance for the season. And then again, we did our monthly critical alarm test. There's been no issues. The high core screening unit had failed on October 14th. And Holden Mechanical was scheduled. We had all the parts for the high core. As of today, they completed all the final adjustments today, so we'll be putting it into service tomorrow. So there was some different things that had to be tested and checked, so tomorrow morning we'll put it into service and monitor it all day long. During the inspection of the secondary clarifier number 1, we found that one of the scrapers on the plow blades had rotted off, so a new scraper was fabricated and installed. Clarifier was tested and is now ready to be put in service. So the goal there is to put number 1 online, take number 2 off for inspection, maintenance, and to check that piece of equipment out. And the biofilter blower inlet and discharge ductwork was replaced. It just seen its age in service, had some rotted holes. That's for the odor control, the biofilter when you come in where the wood chip pile is. That's where the odor control is taken care of.
Excuse me, Keith.
Yes, sir.
So that's being worked on as we speak, or was it?
It was completed today. They did their final adjustments, Holden Mechanical.
Oh, okay.
So tomorrow, I ran it for 3 hours today, just with the spray water, making sure we got no heat,
Okay.
any issues to that. So tomorrow we'll be putting it back online, where it'll actually be taking flow coming into
So
the treatment plant.
So the blower was off this afternoon?
No, I misunderstood what you're talking about, the blower itself.
Right.
I thought you were back talking the high core unit.
No, going back.
Now, the blower is on, yes.
It was on today? And
Yes,
Okay, all right,
yes, sir.
thank you.
Yes. Our pump station activities, all the pump station alarm tests were completed. At pump station number 2, which is the MTA 6 West, during the full load generator test, the actual main breaker inside the building that's used to de-energize the power for the generator to come on has a plastic handle that is integrated with metal, and the plastic portion broke. So we had to get a handle replaced. It was done the same day. Otherwise, the power couldn't be transferred back to National Grid because the generator was running. So when the handle got replaced, we restored National Grid. Other than that, the test was successful, no issues with the full load. We received a high wet well level alarm at the North Main Street pump station. It was caused by a rotted wire restraint, and the float dropped down, causing a false high level alarm. So we put in a new wire restraint, secured it, and that was taken care of with that problem. The MTAs were sampled on October 10th and also on October 23rd. In the collection system activities, I've attached some pictures. For the one on October 26th was a grinder pump call for 50 Glen Echo Shore Drive. That's the one that actually had the wire restraint seal where it goes into the top of the motor. It actually rotted off. In the first picture, if you look to the left where you can see the wires, the water is actually dripping right out of the motor end of the pump. And then the second picture is where the actual wire restraint and seal that goes into the top of pump had rotted off. And one of the things that was interesting is this is one of the newer pumps. So a question was sent in to the manufacturer to find out why the material wasn't holding up. So we don't have a reply yet. So it was an upgraded system. And then we also had one on October 29th, was 131 Sunset Drive for a high level alarm. The pump float switch was stuck under some wires hanging down, and also the water in the electrical box had condensation, a little junction box on top. There's condensation, so they wiped it out, checked the seal, secured that, and re-secured the wires that were hanging down into the pump well. And then they tested the system and there was no issues.
Excuse me, Keith.
Yes, sir.
Question, when, On your first experience there, to where the wires were separating or falling out, are you able to break open the pump and rewire it, or do you have to just,
That we can look into, I can get the answer for that. We
Okay.
haven't, the pump is still at the shop.
Oh, okay, so
Maintenance.
this is the-
It's, I'm not sure if the entire unit is corroded there, but it's definitely worth looking at, absolutely, I'll make a note
just
for
check?
that.
I was
Yeah,
curious.
absolutely,
Thank you.
yes.
I'm gonna have to get you a fidget stick.
Do we have records as to when these things actually get put in?
We have to follow up with Steve, he has all the records of when they were upgraded.
Just think it'd be helpful to know when it went in, just to see how long time has elapsed since then. Because if it is turns out to be a defect due to time, you know, we might wanna proactively check some of that off,
Yes.
done around that time, so. So Steve has those dates?
Yes, Steve has those dates for us.
Oh, you get color pictures.
You should have it.
I do, mine are black and white. Ooh. It's okay.
And then on October 31st, we had a grinder pump call at the Howlett Lumber on Trolley Crossing Road for a high level alarm. During an inspection of the pump, we found the hole rotted right through the housing of the ball check, which would be the last picture there, it's in black and white. And right where that is where the ball would actually seat in there, so it's unknown what caused the rotting or if it was just age. But we changed the ball check out, the assembly, tested the system, and it was fine. And then lastly, on October 31st, we had a SSO out of a sewer manhole on Old Worcester Road, which was upstream from the Old Worcester Road pump station. There's a breaker that's in the electrical panel, and the alarm for a power failure was actually integrated before the breaker, so when the breaker tripped, it was still registering power, so it never called out for a power failure. So what we had done is the same day, we had an electrician come out and put in a secondary alarm post the breaker, so that now we have two power failure alarms, so if it was to happen again, then we'd have an alarm on each side for the power failure. So along with not having power on the post side of the breaker, we could not get the high wet well level alarm, which would have been a secondary, because there's two. One's an electronic transducer and the other's a mechanical float. So we weren't able to get those alarms, so in regards, that caused the wet well to fill to a high level, which caused the SSO at the manhole. So at this point in time, everything's been corrected, and the secondary alarm was added, and the SSO report was submitted to DEP. Oh, I didn't put it in, it was like 75 gallons is what I had on the report. And then for the month of October, we marked out 19 dig safes. Everybody's pushing for the end of the construction season. And then lastly, I'd like to ask the Water Sewer Commission to approve the purchase of 2 Renco servo motors. Those are the ones that go to the COMAG system, and they're the electric servo motors that'll oscillate or move the valve to where it needs to be with the flow. We do not have any spares now, so if we were to lose one of those servo motors, the system would have to put in manual until we get one. The problem with putting it in manual, it's made to run by the flow, so whatever's coming in into the COMAG system, if the flow goes up, the valve needs to move more. If the flow goes down, it needs to slow down. So we do need to have a spare. We don't have one. The preference would be 2 for the simple fact, one's for the return and one is for waste.
Okay. Based on that request, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll make a motion to approve purchase of the 2 servo motors for $4,181.
Okay, got a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay, discussion. Jen, have something? No?
No discussion.
So each COMAG system works with 2 servo motors to control the flow at different percentages. So out of the COMAG, one goes to waste and one goes to recovery. So they work in conjunction, so each COMAG has 2, so we have 4 altogether, and we're looking to have 2 replacements.
So we'll have 6 in the building, 4 operating and 2,
That's correct, sir.
2 spares. Okay.
Yes.
All right, got a motion on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
Thanks for being proactive.
Thank you for the approval on that.
Yeah, no
Get them ordered tomorrow.
I guess, Keith, going back, if you would, going back to the ammonia level, what's your hunch?
My hunch, not sure if it's equipment related or if it was process related. It's very hard to see. It's unsure of at this time whether it was a piece of equipment or if it's process related.
But you definitely think it's in-house, it's not what's coming into our line.
I'm still doing a root cause, trying to figure it out, taking the information that comes in.
Right.
But as soon as I come up with a definite, root cause of what it is, and then I can present that to you, and we
Yeah.
can go from there.
Okay.
If you look at their R&M expenses for the month of October, I believe this is only for the first half, correct?
That's correct, the rest of the invoices aren't in there.
So, at your last meeting, we talked about how some of their months were as well over and some were well, you see this month so far is well under. But at our last meeting, when we talked about the additional fees, when they went over the 2,500 per month that's allocated, there was never a motion to follow up and kind of level everything off and pay the difference. So now that, once we get through October 30th, that'll be their first year of operation. We can go ahead and hopefully at the next meeting, I'll have that information and bring that to you so we can almost do like a true up to get that behind us from last year and make any adjustments we have to. Okay?
Yeah, usually, at the end of the year, that's when we get our surcharges from the company, as far as overages and unders.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm following surcharges in terms of just reconciling the.
Correct,
The
yes,
limit account. Yeah, once we, they're always a little bit lagging, unfortunately, we don't always get the invoices in time by the 31st. So yeah, what'll happen is, once all the invoices come in, there'll be a reconciliation for the entire year.
Sure.
And the delta will then be presented as an invoice or a credit, depending on which way, it goes. If it's a credit, if we're under, we'll either issue a credit, or you can just roll it into the next year, however the commission would like to handle it. I think it's pretty clear that I think we're gonna be slightly over for the year. It'll be close, less than probably 10,000. It's probably more likely to be like around 5, I think. I think that was the last we had saw, right? Because we were about 10 as of
We were
last
10
month.
Right, we were 10 of last month.
So you figure 25, we'll probably be less than that, so somewhere between 5 and 10, I think we'll have exceeded the limit account by.
Yeah,
So then we'll just be issuing an invoice for that delta.
okay. All right.
But that's likely to occur in December, by the time we get everything reconciled. It's sometime in November. Frankly, November's almost over. That's hard to believe. It's great. So,
Okay.
And that would conclude the report for the month of October.
Any other questions? From the other people? No? Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Have a
you.
great and safe Thanksgiving.
And you as well?
Thank you also.
Thanks so much.
And now,
is Paul coming up next?
Yes.
Yeah. All right, Keith, I'll call you tomorrow.
So, Mr. Chair?
yes,
We also contracted Veolia to do an I&I study, phase 1 that they did, that you paid, I think 2 meetings ago, you authorized the payment for it. So, Mr. Rodman is one who did the study, and there's probably a 5-inch binder there full of paperwork.
yeah,
In your packet, I forwarded you the kind of the Cliff Note version of it, which is the first 5 pages with a conclusion and a recommendation to move forward. So if you want, we can just let, I guess, Mr. Rodman give us a, kind of a run-through of what's going on, and if anybody wants any backup information, the report's there, and we will have that. That's been at the sewer plant for the last couple of weeks for you to stop by and review. So,
Okay.
right after the monthly operating report starts, the I&I mitigation report. So, yeah,
All
a
right.
couple more pages. Here.
Then, Mr. Paul, take it away.
All right, so we met with Steve a few months ago to discuss I&I issues throughout town. And also, as of this year, December 31st, 2017, the regulation that Mass DEP is imposing on all the communities and wastewater commissions throughout the state. So in the contract, you have an obligation to CCTV 17,400 feet of sewer main, and we just piggybacked on that up in the Glen Echo Lake area. We chose that area because of the high water ground table, it's around the lake. We're thinking sump pumps, high flows during rain events at the pump stations. So we also cleaned 17,400 feet, inspected 60 manholes, and did 17,400 feet of smoke testing. Through that investigation, we revealed 2 defects which proposed to repair, which are broken sewer pipes on Osgood Road. We found 1 sewer lateral cap that was missing, which could be a source of inflow. We didn't find any roof leaders or downspout gutters connected to the sewer system. We didn't find any storm system assets connected to the sewer system. The only thing that is still kind of could be an issue is the possibility of sump pumps. So because a lot of those are grinder pumps up there and there's some backwater valves in the area, when we smoke test the area, that smoke may not get past the check valve. So
Yeah, and additionally, just the reason we targeted that area was because we do see higher rates of flow during rain events. So, you know, with the limited knowledge of the system, we kind of, at least initially, focused on what we thought would be low-hanging fruit. As it turns out, the system was actually pretty tight in terms of what we could find from a defect and infiltration. So it leads us to believe that the additional flow is most likely due to inflow, which would be sump pumps, things of that nature.
You know, just for information, this was a few years ago, on North Sturbridge Road. As you dip down, going towards the very low point, there was a lateral there that had a break in the pipe, which was a major contributor. And again, nothing that was intentionally done, it was just a break. But that was noticed when the lines were cambered, and it just saw a constant flow of clear water during times of the day where you wouldn't expect it.
absolutely.
And then they just followed it through and then ended up having to repair the pipe. But it doesn't take much for 10, 20,000 gallons,
No, it does not.
no. And I know of another one, I think it was over on Dam Road or Stevens Park Road, where there was a manhole there that was not necessarily set the way it should have been. It was collecting, but,
Yeah, and that's typically what you see when, you know, when you have rain events, a high water table, if the flows go up, that's typically the first thing you would expect, would be to see that kind of running water coming
Right,
into
yeah.
the sewer. In this particular case, that area of Glen Echo Lake is actually fairly tight.
It is.
Of all that linear footage, we found 2 structural defects that weren't contributing to I&I, but were structural in
and
nature.
what time of the year was the inspection done?
That was late August.
Okay, yeah, water table's down. Yep. Okay,
The other portion of that activity will be provided as part of what we hope to be able to provide part of the, as Paul described, the regulatory requirement, the permit to submit an I&I report as a result of activities that all collection systems, all sewer systems in the state are now required to conduct.
Okay. So, recommendations,
So the recommendations, based off the actual project work, would be to repair using cure and paste lining the 2 structural defects that were identified.
yeah, okay.
So I've given Peter a proposal to perform that work. I assume it's up in the packet. It would take roughly a day, about 3 hours apiece. You wouldn't stop flow in the pipe, you wouldn't obstruct service to anybody, and in and out in one day.
Do you guys do your own CICP?
Yes.
We do. Up to a certain diameter.
Yeah, you show it line.
Yeah,
18-inch
18
typically.
inch,
After that, it just gets too big and cumbersome.
So this is the proposal here totaling $1,500.
No, the page before that.
I'll pay you, because we thought we were getting out of it reasonable.
No.
It wasn't that you had another zero.
No,
Okay.
not that bad.
Now, so we have 2 proposals, one for each repair?
No.
Okay.
The first proposal is for both repairs for $4,175.
Okay.
And those are to repair the defects that the camera found in the line on Osgood Road in two separate spots.
Okay, and if I'm not mistaken, isn't one of them just a cap?
No, that was cap lateral. I spoke to the homeowner and she was gonna do that on her own.
Okay,
So these are 2 defects, 2 breaks and cracks within the sewer main itself on Osgood.
okay. Okay. What do you think caused the cracks?
I mean, it could be anything. It could be, ground movement. I mean, it's all PVC pipe, so it's relatively new, put in from the 70s till now.
Yeah,
I mean, one's a pretty good split in the pipe. Could be, it's hard to tell.
compaction, vibration, like Paul said, typically movement of the soil.
could have been broken when it was installed.
Could have been broken when it was
On-
installed. No,
Could have been
it-
unseen, but
it's
broken when
possible.
installed.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so, members, do we want to go forward with this repair? Or do you want to go and think about it some more, or,
I'll make a motion, we go forward with the repair for the spot repair up on Osgood Road. For, was it 4174?
75.
75.
okay? Do I have a second to that? And then we'll open discussion?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Does that routinely come out of your capital outlay account? Or under O&M?
O&M?
You consider that O&M, not a capital cost?
No,
Okay.
not really big enough. I mean, if you ended up with $100,000 worth of it, that'd be different, but
Okay.
Yeah, it's
just a spot repair.
Small repair.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I understand. Just
Yeah.
wasn't sure.
Paul, anything? Okay. I got a motion and a second on the floor. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Unanimous? Okay. And fixed.
Yeah,
No, but this
there is a
all-
signature page for that, if you guys wouldn't mind signing.
Should we all just sign one?
Yeah, you can cross, you can cross myself and Steve out and just sign as commissioners. That'd be great, correct? You guys want to
Yeah,
sign
that's all we
copies?
need.
Yes, please.
Here you go, Jim.
And a timeframe? Oh,
Probably within 2 weeks.
okay.
So these are mains in the road?
Correct.
Okay. Is Jerry gonna let them open the road?
They don't have to,
No, we go in through a manhole. There's no excavation.
they just drag the liner down the main.
What,
That's
you do
exactly
something
right.
like the in situ form type of
That's
thing?
exactly right.
Just spot repair.
Yep.
Jeez, it should be less money than that.
It is less than them, I assure you.
And it's a lot cheaper than excavation.
We're just looking for a couple signatures on it. We need 2 signatures, Peter?
3,
Need 3?
please.
We should just all sign.
Let's pass it to Alex. That sounds-
And I guess the next recommendation is to follow up on the I&I mitigation report and to send something to DEP to let them know that we did do this type of investigation work. Let them know we are following through with what's required and submit a report stating that to them by the end of the year, which is required.
Yeah, there's a permit requirement to submit an I&I report, and then if the I&I report is not completed or comprehensive enough, you can ask for an extension But of course, you need to indicate what you've done to date and why you're looking for the extension.
I've got a question for you, John. Is this an annual thing?
It is.
Yes.
So this is $1,500, or is, we're gonna have to spend this every year?
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty comprehensive report when you look at what the DEEP is requesting of the communities. And that's just a report. You know, it's an undertaking to do all the activities required to generate the information. Fortunately, we've done a significant amount as part of, you know, the authorization before, the smoke testing, the manhole inspections, the CCTV work, the cleaning. Those are all activities as part of the SSES report that DEEP is looking for. The other portion that we're behind, I think, would be on the mapping, knowing precisely how big your system is, what assets you have. There's a whole asset management part of that.
Right, but didn't we do some mapping with this?
Yeah, we
Yes.
have some mapping. In fact, the area that we targeted, A, because it was mapped, so we kind of knew what linear footage you had, what size pipes.
Right.
But it also, obviously, was indicative of a high flow area during rain events. But I think as part of a comprehensive sewer system assessment, you know, you gotta map the entire system. You have to know what you have, where you have it, how old it is,
So the
size, what material.
The 17,000 feet that was done represents what areas?
Only around Glen Echo Lake. So when I first received the town's GIS, which
Oh,
we
right.
thought was a complete GIS,
Right.
it was only manholes south of Route 20, and not even all of them. Going out in the field, doing our own surveys and our own work, I was able to find over 200 more manholes and pipe assets, pump stations, pipe diameters, materials, and I added all that and basically built on what the town already had.
Okay, and when you did this report, did it include Charlton City?
No, it was only Glen Echo Lake.
Only Glen Echo Lake?
Yes, sir.
So the GIS you had wasn't, you know, as comprehensive as it needed to be. We added to it and updated it, but it really only represents that area that we were targeting.
Okay, I see that, Peter, yeah, I
Yeah,
got that.
so the
Okay.
north of it.
Right, right. So, looking forward, and this seems to be, it's gonna be an annual thing.
Yes.
So come next year, we'll do a different area,
Yes,
and then a different area, then a different area, until we go in full circle and then
correct.
start all over again.
Correct. There's guidelines within the I&I analysis report put out by
Yeah.
Mass DEP that basically it's requiring communities to put together a asset management package for wastewater to remove inflow and infiltration. The manhole inspections on a 10-year basis, and then pipe inspections and pipe cleaning on a 5-year basis. So once you've completed 5 years, which should be 100% of your system, then you would then start over again. And then you just start building historical data on top of that, and then putting together price, projects on price and scheduling and, reporting that to DEP as well.
Okay, but it just, so everyone understands this process here costs us, between the repairs and the actual investigative work, about $30,000, is that correct?
Somewhere around there, yes.
Yeah, but 2022 to do it, and
Yes.
then all this, okay. So
Yeah, I
in
mean,
5
it-
years, it's 150 grand,
Yes.
going by that way.
In a real best-case scenario, you'd have the system already mapped, and then you would break it out into zones, so that you could, basically manage the pieces. I think as part of what needs to happen over time is we have to
Correct.
build that map, and we have to be able to basically know what kind of system you have and how big, how old. And then you overlay, flow data and defect data, and then you can really be strategic about capital planning and capital rehabilitation.
Again, once the system is mapped and you have the GIS coordinates for each manhole and you know what's there, and Paul pops the cover, sees what size line goes which direction, and we can get a true vision of what's in the ground,
Yes.
Yeah.
it's
okay,
not gonna change.
okay.
No.
You might have to just go back and kind of maintain some of the manholes just to make sure that there's no nothing falling apart interiorly, but,
And you'll also be able to locate and see which pipes are more at risk based on geographical location. You know, are they in front of riverbeds? Are they in front of schools?
Railroad tracks, yeah.
All those things, so you can monitor them a little more closely.
Would any of the risk or age assessment be included on any of this?
I'd have to get the dates for the age portion, and I don't know if the town has all that data readily available, but it's something that, you know, we could look into.
No, but between cammering and whatnot, do you guys do any of the, I forget the acronym for it,
In info,
the,
in terms
the
of.
pipe classifications?
Yes.
Oh, you do, okay.
Yeah, we have a purpose-built software program that we utilize for doing exactly that. It takes into account the size, it takes into account the age, it takes into account its proximity to.
Right,
issues,
material.
And gives a ranking. Because you don't want to spend your capital dollars on a, you know, a dead-end street that really is, you know, potentially is at risk to, say, maybe a sewer line that's running in front of a hospital. And if there's a defect in one or the other, and you've got limited capital dollars, you want to prioritize where that money is spent. And there's a hierarchy we use in the software.
That's correct.
That does that analysis for you, so it's not just your gut, it's actually some scientific rationale behind prioritizing your limited capital dollars.
After the 5 years is ended, would there be enough data to complete a comprehensive wastewater plan? Or is there still, would there still be pieces?
Well, it would certainly be you know, you'd have to hire an engineering company to
Yeah.
actually do that, and they would rely very heavily on that information, certainly. And it's not unusual for us, unfortunately, to go into communities where we've been tasked to do this, to find that the system is 50, 60, 70% bigger than they actually knew. It's really amazing when you really start developing a true GIS and decide, and you really understand just how big the system is, because it typically gets added on over years and years and years, and the record keeping doesn't always keep up.
Okay. All right, what's this next item here, Pete? For the,
this is the report
for the-
to submit to DEP based on the
Okay.
work that was done with the last mitigation plan.
Okay, ladies, gentlemen, this is a proposal to do this report to submit to DEP for $1,500. Entertain a motion for this?
The only thing I could add, I'm sorry, Chairman, is that's based on within the contract, there's a rate table for providing that type of service. So what we did is we figured how many hours it was gonna take to do it, and utilize the rate table that's in the contract to arrive at that dollar figure.
Okay.
In this year's budget, I believe we still have over $35,000 in our I&I line item. I should look it up. So, there's money there to pay for this.
Okay,
I'll make a motion, we go forward with the Mass I&I report to the Mass DAP for $1,500.
okay, second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconds all over the place.
Take
Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
So moving forward with the I&I, because we're gonna be on to, we're still in FY18, we're gonna have money available to do more work before June 30th. Would the board be interested if I was to work with Paul and come up with a plan and scope of work to kind of do some more GIS mapping and do some more system, I guess, exploration to figure out exactly what's there in the older portions of the system, where we don't have, I guess, any as-built plans, and we're going by best guess knowledge on what was done back in the 70s and 80s.
For me, I'd like to put that off till the beginning of the year. But again, anyone else has input, go ahead.
I don't see any problem moving forward and getting the scope of work and stuff done.
Okay.
Temperatures are favorable right now to do stuff, so.
Okay.
I don't know if anybody else has any interest to move forward now, but it's a good time of year.
I think you should do it.
Great. So I'll touch base with you on that. Both of these have been approved. I'll get you copies of the signed contracts for that,
Excellent.
and we can move forward.
Based on the consensus, we're gonna move forward.
Yes, and again, it's just gonna be a proposal for your consideration based on what was discussed today and moving forward to continue I look at it as a way to invest, to get information based on what's in the ground, because being in the office, you try and look at what's in the ground for sewer lines, and some areas are well-defined, and the older areas, it's best guess, unfortunately. And I think the way that the GIS mapping is done, where the manhole covers are popped off, and they actually look down and they see which line goes which direction and the size, I think it's very important to have that. So when you size the system and we know what's there, and you see what we're getting for flows, you can start to identify where we need to really focus, because it's not gonna come down to increase in the gallons per day the plant can take. It's gonna come down to making the plant more efficient in order to handle what we're currently getting. So I think in order to do that, we have to know what's in the ground, what we're getting from where, and figure out how to move forward. And this is, I think, is a core component of some very integral information to do that.
I just want to make a point. It's my understanding that we have no pipes in the ground that are from back in the 60s and 70s.
Okay.
Charlton City had been totally replaced. And I know that was, it did take a while for it to all be totally replaced.
70s and 80s?
It was replaced in the early 1990s. That's when we did phase one, and then phase 2 and 3, which was a combination of the two. And all of those plans should be in place, because those, every one of them went out to bid. And I don't know if they did as-bills to them, but all of those plans should be there.
Okay.
I think they're upstairs and
No, there are phase one plans. Just wasn't sure if those are accurate enough to know what's existing. I know.
I fully
That's all.
agree that all of it needs to be put onto the GIS system. And in fact, it was, and Paul, you may remember, we were paying hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, to be part of that program, to where the town has its own clicker. I call it a clicker, our own GIS identifying. And that was supposed to happen. It was supposed to be part of the project, to where we were going to go to every manhole, because I believe every manhole in town is numbered. They have a number for each manhole. And what they were going to do is go to each manhole, put the pole, click, then go to the next one, write down the number, then click, and that was all supposed to be done. And also, to your point, yes, you pop the cover off, you see what size line it is, and
Which direction they go.
which direction the flow is going. So, but whether it should have been done before, whether it gets done a little bit later, but the important thing is it does need to get done, so that you're able to go in a digital system and go, fine, show me the sewer lines, and then click, show me the water lines, and it's all right there. All that should correspond, so.
Yeah, it's Deep's expectation. That's what they expect you to have as well. So.
Yeah,
All right.
good enough.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you need me to stay for?
If you don't mind.
No, not at all.
Just in case, that'd be great.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving along, and 5 minutes out of schedule here. 7:15 scheduled for Treehouse, the MOA.
Yes.
And discuss sampling results.
Yeah.
MOA being the memorandum of agreement.
Yes. So I forwarded everyone a copy of the memorandum of agreement last week. Our council, I forwarded it to you via email. I do have a copy here if you'd like to review it. Our council has integrated all the changes that you discussed at your last meeting, and has sent it to Treehouse's council, and they have, from what my understanding is, your council had no objections, so it should be in final form, ready to vote, unless there are anything that, if there's something I might have missed, but.
Mr. Johnson, you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely.
Okay, please.
Sure. Jesse Johnson, Bowler Engineering. Good to see you again.
Okay,
Nathan Lanier, Treehouse Brewing Company.
okay, good, thank you. According to what's been stated here by Mr. Boyer, and is that we've got both sides in agreement as far as what's here. I guess the key question now is do any commissioners have any questions, comments, or reservations as far as going forward with this document? I know for me, on page 4, operational considerations, when it came to Treehouse shall install and make operational said pretreatment system within 30 minutes of date of this agreement. Just for clarity, that means, at least my understanding is that there'll be equipment that will be in place and operating, and we will be getting the test results by then, and be working with each other just to, again, to be moving towards that. So, is that a clear understanding?
Right, so not to start the process within that time frame, to be actually operational and results coming
Right,
in.
okay. Oh, correct, okay. And then, I guess this is just a picayune thing, I guess, on page 5, number 11, as far as the sampling and the reporting and all that, that will be on Treehouse's dollar for doing that.
Mhm.
Okay. I know for me, that's the only questions and clarity that I had.
Packet from Gabe.
Who's reading the samples?
I have no idea.
They send it out to an independent lab. Which
Is it-
lab? Net Lab, I believe.
Is it a DEP certified lab?
The lab that the results are going out to, I believe it is, yes.
I,
Yeah,
I believe it's the
might be
same.
something that wanna be in there for both sides, just as a reference.
sure.
I believe it's the same lab that we use for the MTA.
That way, if there's any dispute about results from anybody, either side or whatever,
Okay.
you know?
Did John have any issues?
No,
No?
right. John, you know, with the MOA, I mean,
No,
It's-
I mean, we made some recommendations about some sampling.
yeah.
Good.
And that's more part of the SOP than the MOA. So, which will be coming forward.
Standard operating procedures, SOPs, okay. I'm sorry.
There's so many acronyms, I know.
That's right, yeah. Jen, you're all set with this? Okay.
Yes, sir.
Paul? All set. Alex, a few more minutes.
Yeah, I'm good with that.
You good with Alex? Peter, do you have an official copy that Alex has it?
Yep.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
So I'd accept a motion to go forward in the signing of this memorandum of agreement between the Charlton Water and Sewer Commission and the Treehouse Brewing Company Incorporated.
Second? Or did you make the
No,
motion?
No, I'm looking for the
Wanna make
motion.
it?
No, you can make it.
Motion to accept the MOA, I don't know what the date is on it, Rob.
The November November 20.
Oh, today's date,
Yeah.
dated,
20th of November.
dated 20th November 2017, in Trios Brewery, to accept said MOA as stated.
Okay. You got a second on that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Any further discussion? Any discussion whatsoever? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous.
There is a signature page, if you guys wouldn't mind signing that.
This one right here?
Yeah.
All set?
We need to sign.
Oh, yeah, I'll sign and pass it over. We can continue.
So- Then we'll just have someone from Treehouse sign, and I'll get copies of it made up, and we'll be good to go.
Good, good.
Moving on to the data. There's a spreadsheet in your packet. It was attached, and it's also in your packet.
This is Treehouse data?
Yes. It's on a bigger sheet of paper, it'll fold out.
This
You'll
one?
be- yeah.
Let's swap somebody.
Authorized to go on this.
I can. I think I can. I think so. I'm one of the guys.
Excuse me.
All right, so, thank you guys for working with me on that, getting it done, worked out well.
Thank you.
Jesse, I believe we're moving into your wheelhouse.
Okay. What would you like to go into? I can give you just a general overview of how we've been doing and
Why don't you do the overview and then we'll pick it up from there. Thank you.
Sure. So, as you can see, we've been sampling pretty regularly now for a couple months. We have a lot of data that's come in, trying to assess some patterns, some commonalities. One thing that I think you can see if you look at the brewery process sewer usage, that has really gotten into a steady rhythm, if you will, from essentially 9/14 on. We're hovering around 4,500 gallons per day for these guys. So they've dialed into the brewing schedule and their process so much so that you can really count on what they're putting out for gallonage, probably associated with their production. And same thing with the usage of water. So that's a good thing. But then as you move to the right and start to look at some of the results, we're still seeing some fluctuations, and one of the bigger, more important components, the BOD, we are still seeing some highs and lows, nothing too out of scale of what we were expecting, but still something that we are concerned about with that level of fluctuation, especially if Treehouse is dialed in with their process and their ingredients. They probably shouldn't see that large of a fluctuation. So we had discussed that last week on site. John had some suggestions about maybe upgrading our sampling process and doing something more along the lines of a composite sampler and incorporating that into their system. So that's something we're looking into now, getting some information. There's two different ways you can do it. We have, a pressure line, which adds a few more moving parts to a sampler that would have to be retrofitted into that, or gravity being ideal because you have less moving parts, but we have to see where we'd have the opportunity to put in the sample port for that option. So we're almost there. We're getting to that point to put that in, make some recommendations in Treehouse for that. And we think that'll just give you, obviously, more consistent results on the sampling versus a grab sample, which they're doing now. And I do believe also in the interim, while we are doing the grab samples, that there was going to be a little bit more review on that procedure with McClure Engineering to see how they're doing it and see if there's any potential for improvements, to see if there's consistency we can get with that part of the process. But again, just going back to the results, you can see, let's take the metals for instance, you're getting a lot of NDs now. more than we were prior, which is what was expected. We think a lot of the initial particulate matter that might have been left over from initial construction has flushed out of the system. So we expect those results to continue to stay in the ND or around that level. The pH, we've got that dialed in now. That hasn't been an issue. Total suspended solids has been kind of in line with the BOD, a little bit up, a little bit down. Nothing that we still cannot handle. Ammonia's been excellent. That's gone down consistently. And then, again, the TKN, the phosphorus, those have stayed pretty consistent as well. So the ones that, were listed in the MOA and the ones we have the initial concerns with the BOD, the TSS, and the ammonia, we are getting a handle on those. I've been talking with Aquapoint, who helped me out with the first initial pretreatment and settling tank that's in place now, and talking about the phase 2, showing them these results. Nothing, again, that we can't handle with the next stage and what we're targeting for process. The MBBR system certainly can handle that type of BOD loading and that level of flow, and will certainly knock down some of these other things that you're seeing for constituents. So that's basically a general overview of where we're at, but I can answer any other questions or if you have any comments.
Is there a reason you only sample on Thursdays, with the exception of once?
That's probably the highest use day, or the day that you would expect the highest loading on any of the constituents. They brew on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, correct?
We brew Tuesday through Saturday most of the time, but our peak usage, if I had to make a guess, would be Tuesday through Thursday.
So you're gonna have residuals in the settling tank starting from Tuesday. It is an equalization tank, but the thought is get it right there in the middle, a couple days after they start this process, and you're gonna get a conservative sample of what they have going on there.
I didn't know.
Versus a Sunday or something like that, there's really no activity.
Well, in the EQ tanks, would there be a better representation, sample taken towards the end of it, or is Thursday kind of the end of it?
That's kind of the end of it, I would say.
Okay.
They've been canning, they've been brewing. Some of the things that would produce that BOD have already been in place, and
So everything's pretty much empty by Sunday, were you getting ready to start everything over again? I know nothing about beer making.
Well, we're not using water on Sunday. I mean, that equalization tank still has constituents from Friday and Saturday.
all right.
So we're not physically moving anything through the tank on Sunday.
And nothing's getting discharged into our system at that point?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Yeah, shouldn't be.
Does it operate on a float? I don't personally know.
Yeah, it would. Obviously, if you're getting to a high enough level, it would. But we'll put it on the day that we think is gonna be the most conservative day to get the flows, and seems to be Thursday, unless there's some day you think we should target differently.
No, I don't know
Process.
that much about the process. I didn't know if there was anything where anything would become stronger on either end of it instead of being right in the middle.
John?
Yeah,
Sorry.
I could probably offer some suggestions. I think if they move forward with the recommendations to go to a 24-hour composite,
Yep.
and really it's a composite that would be based when flow is discharging, I think, which makes sense. Alex, I think to your point, if we were to do like a 2-week study over a period of time, sample each day, and then you get a representation of what
Right.
each day looks like, and then pick which day represents the load.
You know where I'm going?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
okay.
You know what I mean, like, you could get a whole spectrum of a 2-week period and kind of identify what the true loading is over that period of time, and then pick whichever day. Sort of like we do with the MTA, they initially did all that, and now we've represented it the Monday and the Thursday of the week, I think it's Monday and Friday, represents.
Right.
But I think addressing how it's being sampled, I think is job one, and making sure that it's consistent with, what you're seeing.
I'm not saying anything's being done wrong, I just want to make sure that if things change at the plant and they're scrambling to try to figure out why, operationally, if we know something's coming at this point in a different level, it's good to know, that's all.
Okay, we can look at that. Once we get a sampling protocol in, we'll
Okay.
know more.
So, Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
I guess we, this first came up probably 6 weeks ago, and we had a meeting with Treehouse in our office where we sat down and looked at the data and saw the fluctuations, and we had concerns. And we saw that the sanitary sewer usage was high, and it wasn't really, I guess, didn't really reflect what was currently being used. So we talked about that, and we talked about, the fluctuations, and we wanted to give it more time to see if it would level out on their own. Last week, John and I met with Treehouse at Treehouse, and John got to see how the system was built, and Jesse sent us a plan, a utilities plan that shows what's there. And that's where John's coming up with the recommendations he's making of the possible ways to do a composite sampler so that it's a true representative of what's being, I guess, discharged, instead of just the process that McClure is currently using. And that's why Jesse also noted that they're gonna review what McClure is currently doing and seeing if there's any improvements they can make until Treehouse decides whether or not to move forward with a different sampling process. So, as everyone looks at these numbers, the fluctuations still don't make a whole bunch of sense, other than we really need to nail down what the sampling process is gonna be. The metal results are consistent with other industrial users that we test, so it's not like these are extraordinarily high versus what we're getting from other customers. So, unfortunately, I think Treehouse is one of two that we test for metals, unfortunately. So, I think from what I've seen and what I've learned going through this process is that I'm gonna guess, we came up with 14 other industrial users that we should probably be doing the same type of baseline testing for, and coming up with a true IPP program that will get us that information so that we treat all of our industrial customers fairly, and that we have this information to know what's coming into the plant, and we can identify some other, again, concerns to make sure that the plant is running as efficiently as possible based on what we're getting. So, I just wanted to, again, the metal results, they look alarming, but it's a concentration that's not reflective of actual pounds or weight that we're getting. And like I said, they're consistent with what we're getting from other customers at this time, so.
And it's had no impact on our treatment plant at this point in time.
No, if you look at the plant performance on our MOR,
Yes.
as far as metals go, no, we are not. My understanding is, in the wintertime, there's a copper issue that comes about every February or so, is that's hit or miss, but,
Yeah.
but that's not relevant to any
No.
particular customer, it's just
Exactly.
relevant to metals.
Exactly.
in the
And
plant.
the way that this is set up is, again, we've got a 30-month process that's beginning, and again, it's our way of working with our partner here to go forward and be working equally towards a goal. So it has to begin somewhere, and again, I don't think any of these numbers that are here are anything that we weren't expecting, and that, and again, all we're looking for is a good effort towards our goal. So I think that Treehouse is a good neighbor and will continue to be a good neighbor. So they just gotta apologize for being too busy. But,
Good problem to
okay.
have. Good problem to have.
yeah, yeah.
John, is there anything else you want to add, or?
No, just that, appreciate the time that Treehouse spent with us, giving us a pretty thorough tour. It was really helpful, certainly from my perspective. Like Alex, I have very little knowledge of how it happens, so seeing it firsthand was really helpful. And, like we talked about at the meeting, any assistance we can provide, particularly as it relates to wastewater, feel free to reach out, because it is a true relationship.
Thank you, John.
Anything else, Jesse, or Nate?
No, we can continue to keep you guys updated. Obviously, we can send you in the results as they come in, but even in the background, like I said, we're working on looking into the composite sampler and how to retrofit that into the system, and as soon as that is lined up and finalized, and we're getting ready to get that online, we'll update you on that, and as we go through the process, like you said, over the next 30 months, we'll just keep informing you and letting you know what we know.
And now, I believe, is it the MDM tanks of the process?
The MBBR,
Oh, MBBR. Okay.
moving biological,
Oh, okay. Those are
moving
the-
bed biological
Those are
reactor.
the floating styrofoam balls or whatever they are in the tanks.
Yeah, there's different media, they look almost like honeycombs.
So that will mean that all of the waste that's going to be sent to the treatment plant will then go through those tanks.
All the process waste, that's
The
correct.
process
So
waste.
you'll still have sinks and toilets going
Correct,
through separate
that'll go
lines.
separate, but
Yeah.
then, well, so what it'll do is it's gonna allow that medium to even settle out more and to sit more before it leaves your property.
Yes.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah, that it's gonna go through that, and then it's gonna go through potentially two-stage clarifier, and then it's gonna, after that, get put into the system. So it's gonna go through multiple treatment processes before it gets released.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it's a main wastewater plant.
That's right, yeah, yeah, perfect. Good, good, very good. Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for staying, appreciate it.
Again, happy
Thank you, John.
everybody.
Thank you.
Have a nice
All right, Joe.
My favorite holiday. All you gotta do is eat.
How about this?
Good job, Dean.
Okay. Did Jen leave?
I think she'll be back, yeah.
Okay,
Just have to hang on a second.
sure. Did you want to move on to the matrix for a second, or are you happy with that?
No, we can wait, it's okay.
Okay. Okay, so next agenda item is number 5, new business. We have any new business? No, okay, agenda item number 6, old business number 1, North Sturbridge Road. I will excuse myself from any discussions on that subject. Either Peter or Paul could take
It
over.
was my information that there's nothing new to add to that at this time. So I'm kind of surprised to even see it on the schedule if you
Well,
have something to say.
it's on the agenda because Mrs. Vaughn asked to have it on there for discussion, and unfortunately, I believe I sent the agenda packet out and posted it before I got the information that town council advised the board of selectmen not to discuss in an open meeting. So when I followed up with Attorney Cosgrove and asked him if he made the same recommendation for this board, and he confirmed that he did, while it's still possibly under investigation. And I think that was asking Jen after, her main question is where does it stand? And it's a good question, because we don't know. We know that the forensic audit is done, we all have copies of that, we've all read it. We have recommendations coming out of that forensic audit, but we don't know what the other agencies are doing. So I emailed the gentleman that completed the forensic audit to ask him if he could tell me, I guess, where he sent it and if he knew of any investigations that might be ongoing. So he got back to me and he told me that he sent it to the Attorney General's office, the Worcester DA's office, and the State Ethics Commission. And I haven't been able to get any information on whether or not any of those agencies are moving forward with any type of investigation. So based on Attorney Cosgrove's recommendation, until we know yes, no, or otherwise, he recommended that we not, that you folks not
Thank you.
discuss this item in an open meeting. And there's no necessary preclusion under executive session to go into executive session to discuss this matter, so. While it does seem like a moot point to continue to have it on the agenda, I just wanted to kind of put that out there for you guys and for people in the public to understand why it might have just gotten passed over.
I make a motion that we table this issue, but we also keep it under old business until something comes up and we're able to have discussions or deliberations.
Confused me, you said table it, but then keep it under old business. When I
I'm
table
saying-
it, until something develops, it would be not on the agenda every week.
Okay, so,
So table it until something else develops, I would accept that, so I would second that, but
Alex?
I agree with Paul. No,
Fine.
If it ends up on the agenda, then it's gotta be discussed to some degree or another every week,
Fine.
or every meeting.
My apologies.
no, that's right.
Okay, so, table.
Excuse me, Peter, can I say something?
I'm not, Mr. Gagner's acting chair, so you have to
Okay.
talk to him.
Yeah,
Is it
Please,
possible to say anything?
certainly, certainly.
I'm here in regards
If
to
you-
North Sturbridge Road.
Bonnie, if you could just come up and state your name and address.
Hi, I'm Bonnie Mitchner, and I have a two-family on North Sturbridge Road. I have a property that I have, trying to sell, and it's sold, and the closing is in 2 weeks, and I've been waiting for results on North Sturbridge Road to tie in. So I'm wondering, where do I go, and what do I do at this point?
I don't know if it's possible to tie in or not. I don't even know who would answer that. Could you answer that, or would Steve know the answer to that?
Well, the line's not connected, so it's definitely not possible to tie in.
It's, I thought it was connected, just simply not for final approval, but.
I don't.
What's it connected to?
I don't, well, the line that Mr. Lemansky, or whoever ran up North Sturbridge Road was supposed to be, was left unconnected to the Leoning line that was extended.
Okay,
down
I'm
North-
sorry, I thought it was connected
Sturbridge
down
Road.
at Freight House Road and tied in there, but no.
No, I don't believe so. I don't believe that connection's been made at this time. I believe, from what I've read through the minutes and what was authorized, it was to not connect and run the line up North Sturbridge Road at that
So-
time.
And you have a failing septic system, or what's the scoop with your
Yes.
current septic system?
Yes, the system has failed, the Title V has been submitted. It's
Because-
already been brought to the town. And I've been asking about it, and I don't get any answers, and now I have a closing, and I have people that are wanting to buy it, and I have no response.
You
I
can't
don't know what
pass
to do.
Title V then on it?
No.
I
it
mean,
will not
essentially,
pass.
if it's not connected, it just doesn't exist. So there's nothing, just as if it weren't there until it's connected, so there's,
Right.
Is there any other information that is different than that anybody on this board knows?
All I know is what I stated earlier, based on the forensic audit and the recommendation that was made by him, and the fact that he sent that forensic audit and any pertaining information from that to those agencies I mentioned. And I've called the Worcester DA and I've called the Attorney General's office to see if they could tell me if they received it and if there's an investigation going on, and neither one of them could say yes or no. And I called ethics, and because of confidentiality and what they're investigating, they can't even hint yes, no, or anything indifferent, so.
So what do I do?
Unfortunately, either you have to fix your system or wait until this gets resolved.
So that's, I do a new septic system, and then find out that line might come online?
That line may come online, yes, depending, again, the auditor's report was, again, I'm just gonna paraphrase, is to have this board see the Lemansky line brought up to date or brought up to the criteria that the bylaws require.
Right.
And do what needs to be done to have it accepted.
And wasn't that done?
No, I don't believe so.
not in the time frame you're looking for. It's
I
pretty
don't
tough
believe
for
so.
us.
There was,
What else needs to be done? Can I ask?
we can't talk about, that's the thing.
That's what we were just discussing, the fact that we can't.
We can't talk about it. Attorney Cosgrove advised us not to talk about it, so. because they're possibly open investigations, anything that the board might say could change the direction of how that investigation may be going, so.
Okay, so then your advice to me is put in my own septic system?
I have no advice.
Yeah, unfortunately, I think our only advice at this time is that we can't allow you to connect to that line. How you remedy that situation is gonna be up to you.
Okay.
Would any kind of a letter we could send to the bank be helpful to you to explain that, you know, you might be able to connect to the line, but there's gonna certainly be a time frame there that's, you know, could be several months or a year or something. I don't know how long you can hold off on the septic that you currently have.
Well, it's working, it's not coming up on top of the ground, but it
Yeah.
doesn't meet Title V. Like, we're not, like, causing any kind of health hazard or health
Yeah.
risk, but you know as well as I do what the banks require, and, you know, I have a closing scheduled in 2 weeks.
I don't know, they probably wouldn't accept any letter of delay from us. Either is or it isn't right now.
If there was no line in front of a property and it has a Title V failure, what happens? Property owner has to put in a septic.
Do a homo septic, yeah.
And that's the kind of situation you're at, because there's essentially no line that's town-owned and/or accepted at this point in front of your property, I guess.
Okay. All right.
Just for the record, I'm on North Sturbridge Road 2, and I own 12 and 14.
Name?
And,
Your name?
Karen Fournier. And, I think that it's been said a lot of times that nobody on the street wanted to hook up,
You on the opposite side of the street of the other one, or?
Yes.
Yeah, okay,
opposite of her.
yeah,
Yep.
okay.
And, would like to hook up, and I have been
Yeah.
trying to hook up for a couple of years, so I just wanted to let them know that there are people in there.
But you're not in Title V failure.
I have not had a Title V.
Okay.
That's it.
Thank you, Karen. All I can say is as soon as we can move forward, as soon as I get any other information to move forward, that I'll let the commission know, and we can let you folks know of what's going on and kind of keep you up to date of what we're able to do.
So I'll read the newspapers.
You can. You can.
Thank you so much.
Sorry we couldn't be more helpful. Mr. Chair? So,
On the agenda, matrix, goals and
Matrix.
objectives.
yes. So I revised the order of the matrix based on the information I got from some commissioners to prioritize them. So we're still, it seems like a good list. If anyone has any different priorities or wants to see any other items moved up or changed around a little bit, just let me know. But my plan is to prioritize, I guess, what I do based on the tasks that are here in this order. So, while this might not seem like a big deal, to me, it lets me know where to focus most of my time on so that I can move forward to things that you guys want to see get done in a faster manner, so.
So, Mr. Boria, number one is the master plan, number two is school loop.
Yes.
Number three, to become a public water source. So number three, you mean is finding a source?
Yes.
Okay, so that would be that would be a pretty large undertaking.
I understand, yeah, but that's how they were rated.
Right, okay. Grants, which would determine available funds.
You know, Becoming a water, I have to add back in, I must have missed the, becoming a public consecutive water system, should be number 3. That must have got lost when I was moving them around.
Oh, okay.
Because there was a separate item.
It does say become a public water source, or you mean instead of source supplier.
Correct, so there was 2 steps. The first would be to become a consecutive water supply,
Yeah,
and then the second would be to become your own public water
so
source.
that's 3, A and B?
I do 3 and 4. They're two separate tasks. I don't think, they kind of, one depends on the other, but the priority needs to be to determine if you want to become a consecutive water supply. So that would be number 3. Number 4 would be what needs to be done to become a public water source. And then 5 would be grants and just maintaining the 4 grants that are there.
Well, the, becoming a public water source would be really part of the statement within the master plan. The master plan should describe that.
The master plan kind of talks about becoming a consecutive water supply. I look at, and again, maybe that's where it got buried, as part of
Yeah.
the water master plan is what's going to give you the information of if you want to exercise your right that you gave Southbridge notice, you want to become your own consecutive water supply, where you take over everything and you take over all the customers, all the responsibility for all the infrastructure. There's 1 meter at the pump station where Southbridge sends the town, this board, 1 bill, and we take and bill all the customers in our town for water. Except for Millennium.
Back in the early 2000s or mid-2000s, we had gone through this exact same process, which we had a letter into DEP, and I believe we got a response back in the list of, I'm gonna say 27 items, whatever it was, but there was a bunch of items of things that we needed to, pegs we needed to put in the holes.
Yes. And the master plan that you had, that Beta is doing for you, has, if you remember that the contractor had probably 13 or 14 items that they were creating for you.
Yeah.
And all of those were to get you the ability to apply to the DEP minus a financial rate study. And the reason they can't do the financial rate study yet is because one of the things they're gonna create is a capital improvement plan. And that needs to be in place before you can do a true water study and then create your financial plan to submit to DEP with all the other plans that Beta is working on currently.
Okay. I would think for the commission here, one of the big challenges is making a decision if in fact we're going to go and actively look for a source within our town boundaries. And use the funds that we have available to us for doing that. And we do have a sizable amount of funds available for that.
But if you don't take over the current water system to have the customers to supply, what's the point of going and working to find a source that you don't have anyone to sell it to? That's kind of why.
Well, we've already given Southbridge notice, so at any time, we can take that operation over, because it's been over a year. So we have the ability to do that. So and we can do that without even finding a source. Then we become 100% responsible, and we would buy the water at the town line and become the operator.
Correct.
But we would still be committed to purchasing our water from Southbridge. If we were to find our own source, then with our own source, then we would have our own water, which obviously there'd be a cost to it. It's not as if it's free, because of once you get it out of the ground, the treatment and whatever else goes with it, then we would have to operate the system. So what needs to happen, I think, is these items need to be broken down into separate items so that we make it, so that as we go down the path, we make each decision as far as what we're gonna do, what we wanna do. And we look at available funds to determine if in fact we can fulfill the budget in order to have those answers to make the decisions.
So, I guess if your plan is to dual task those and continue, and to consider becoming a public water source while you're considering becoming a consecutive water supply, I would, what I'll do is I'd reach out to the legislators that got the bond bill and make sure that there's, I'm not gonna say strings attached, but to make sure that there's enough here for them to release the funds for us to start doing that now at this time. Because I wasn't involved when that bond bill was done, I do know, and I'm not sure what is connected with it. So I can reach out and figure that out.
When was all the research done on finding a source of water? You were on the committee, weren't you?
We did a comprehensive water management plan for both water and sewer back in probably 2002, 2003. Ty
About
and Bond
15
did it.
years ago, huh?
Yes.
It may behoove whoever's looking into this to see if the technologies have changed in 15 years, as they do quickly, as far as sourcing water, and I believe there was some floodplain issues with one of the sites before you reach too far, because a lot of that has changed, and EPA regulations have changed as far as treatment. You may want to go down that road, because I think you'll find some interesting facts on how things have changed from where they were 15 years ago.
Excuse me, Alex, have they changed to where they're less constrictive or they're more constrictive?
I'm not gonna say they're less or more constrictive, but some of the requirements have changed, and a lot of the technology has changed.
Well, the clear fact of what Ty and Bond did was when they did their research, they ended up recommending a gravel pack well be drilled or built within a floodplain.
Right.
Which is a clear,
And the technologies have changed with directional drilling.
no, I know exactly.
Okay.
They've been around for a while. So you're saying is that maybe.
So the pump heads can be sealed out of a floodplain area, and the pumping area is outside, even though the well resides where the source is good.
Yeah.
Anyway, reach out to Bob, man, he can probably send you right down the right path.
You bet.
So that's counting on stuff from 15 years ago.
That's a good idea. Thanks, Alex.
I think the Buffums area was one area. There are other areas in town, other known areas in town too, where there is considerable abundance of water. But again, the fear is always plume. So,
So again, that's the number 3 priority, and I will, I'll get that information for you moving forward. Any other comments on the matrix, or any of the items on the matrix?
Mr. Chair?
oh, by all means,
The only thing that I recommended was if there's anything we can do to kind of break it up, and disperse, like, certain things that people are better at than others, like, policies and regulations. I mean, I don't mind, like, working through that, and I don't know if people that have other expertise might have something that they can contribute, just so we can start chiseling away at some of these. That's all I had. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, speaking, speaking, I guess, in depth about policies and procedures
Yeah.
or policies and regulations, but I was going through the procedures we have because Norm is leaving. So I was looking through the procedures that we have written down and the applications we have written down, and there seems to kind of be, especially for sewer tie-in permits, a couple of different applications that are used. And the process, the procedure isn't necessarily ironed out. There's a procedure there, but it's not always followed the same way. So if the board doesn't mind, I'd like to try and iron that out and create a procedure and a specific application permit. There is one attached to our website, but that's not the one that, for some reason, is always used. So moving forward, if the board is okay, I'd like to bring that forward next meeting so that again, with Norma leaving and with a new person coming on, I'd like to just make sure that we have all that ironed out moving forward so that the new person and myself will kind of be on the same page, and it will be set in stone, and there'll be clear direction of where to go with those. And I guess one thing to reference is the water sewer meter regulations, in that it has our sewer rate being $93 per quarter plus .0046 per gallon. So I think we just need to update that to what it currently is, so. And then our current bylaws, I think, are missing one or two things that were approved at town meeting, so. Now, I know you want to do policies and procedures, but I'm trying to also make sure that the bylaws we have are current and accurate. And, because I was going through the legislative history book that Kevin Pecos did when he was here, and just following through the information he found and making sure it was accurate with what we currently use. And there's a few things that he found that for some reason aren't reflected in our bylaws, so I'm gonna be hopefully presenting you a few things over the next couple of meetings to kind of, to bring everything up to speed, so all the information we have is accurate and consistent, and when the new person comes on, we can, that person and I will be on the same page and moving forward.
Good enough? Comments? Any problems with that? No. Okay, that's, you know, again, if any members have any suggestions, just pass them on to Peter, and
Please do.
Peter give them the due process. Okay, all right, so moving out of matrix here, and administrative assistant position.
Again, to follow up, Norma is definitely leaving. The position was advertised on November 8th, and it's posted until November 27th. The position, the application process will close November 27th, which is next Monday. I just wanted to kind of get the feeling of the board to see how you want to move forward from there. I met with Jessica today. She does have a couple applicants. It is being advertised in-house and externally at the same time, so there's no hold-up to wait for one to happen before the other. So, we should be good, so.
What do you estimate the pool, the size of the pool?
I didn't ask. She said she has a couple applicants already. I know police advertised a similar position with probably the same salary range, and they had 38 applicants. I know we're not as glamorous as the police department, but if we get a quarter of that, we'll be doing good. So hopefully we'll have a decent-sized pool to pick from.
So, and it's gonna close next Monday?
The 27th, yes.
Okay.
It's on our website, it's on MWWA's, Mass Municipal Association, it's on their website, and I believe she put it in the Villager as well. So, I don't know if the commission had any preference on how to move forward, but
I would want to wait till, to see exactly how many applicants there are, then make that decision on how we're going to move forward.
Yeah, we may want to extend the period of time.
If it's 3, it's one thing, if it's 13, we may handle it totally differently.
okay.
When do we meet
The
next?
4th, the following Monday after that.
And Norma is leaving the first week in December. Maybe. No. So. Okay,
So I'll have that information for you on the 4th.
all right, superintendent report.
So to follow up on the, okay, first, I met with Carl Stortz again to talk about them sending their neutralized process waste, that request they sent, I guess it was back in May or June. They got back with some more information. I went and had my initial meeting with the gentleman making the request. And I came back and I talked to John, and after having John go to Treehouse with me and see what they were doing, and for John to come up with, and have a better understanding of how their operations work and the recommendations to make, I asked if John would come and meet at Carl Storz with me as well, so that he could see the processes of how this is neutralized, the safety parameters that are in place, their standard operating procedures, and see what his advice is after that. So this is still ongoing. I just wanted to let you know it's still here, and hopefully I'll be in front of you guys with a follow-up based on what John sees there and what he gives for a recommendation. So,
Thank you.
I also met with Veolia to talk about completing a headworks analysis. I know this has been talked about, it's been in front of the board a couple times, whether it was from Wooden and Curran or from Veolia. And the main reason was I wanted to talk to them about the IPP program, the industrial pretreatment program, and try and get that, based on what we're seeing from Treehouse, based on the information we get from our other users, how it's not the same from one to the other. How can we create a program so that all of our, and I'm calling them industrial users, but that doesn't mean that they're necessarily big, heavy, bad users. It's just they're users other than a residence or a commercial user that might have a higher number of gallons that we just need to check and get a baseline on to see what their waste consists of. When I talked to them about the IPP program, they backtracked to the headworks analysis, because they said that the IPP program will be great, it'll get you that information, but without the headworks analysis, you won't know what you have for room in the plant to be able to treat more or less. So the IPP program alone is good, but it's not, it won't give you the information you need to make a decision when someone says, can we send you this, to say yes or no. From my understanding from talking to John, the headworks analysis is what will take into consideration what we're currently getting, how the plant is currently configured and designed and operating, to let us know how it's handling what's currently coming in, and what we'll be able to say yes and no to in the future. So, again, I just wanted to mention it to you. If there's no objection, I'd like to try and get some scopes of services and some prices together for you.
I thought we actually had,
I thought Veolia came in once at 21 something.
Yes.
And then came back at 17.
Yes, so Veolia is doing it as a pass-through. They would hire somebody else to come in and do it. So they offered to step back, let us when they do it as a pass-through, they add 10%. So if we do it ourselves, we'll save that 10% and then go ahead and create the IPP program with their assistance.
and have Viola help us with the scope of work.
Yes,
So we'll be getting the same thing, we'd just be putting it out to bid ourselves and
yes.
saving the 10%.
Wouldn't have to go out to bid.
Okay.
It's over 10,000. But
Yeah?
Still have to get I was reading through it today.
It's 3 written quotes,
Three
over
written
10.
quotes. Okay.
But it's engineering services, it doesn't have to go out to
Okay.
bid.
So I guess the important thing there would be to create the scope of services we're looking for, get 3 prices, bring it back to you. And I'm sure Veolia is gonna work with whatever company comes in to do the headworks analysis. And then from there, work with doing the IPP program. They ballpark both things to be completed $20,000 to $25,000. So,
Why do we recall someone wanting to do a trade? They would do the headworks analysis and wanted the credit back on privilege fees. I thought the number was 13,000. Remember that conversation? Okay, never mind. Because really, the headworks analysis is just a series of samples during different times of the day, during different days, just to get a full spectrum of what's coming in our plant.
that's a portion of it. And then it's also how the plant is currently designed and operating to handle what's coming in.
Yeah.
So it's both components to understand if you have room or if there's additional capacity to go ahead and make those decisions of, yes, we can take more, or no, we can't, because our plant is unable to take any more of that constituent.
Now, just a while ago, when Viola first came, didn't they actually give us a sheet that said, you're at 80% here, you're at 100% here? You call that sheet?
Part of that goes back to some of the in-house sampling that overlap between Woodward and Kern.
Maybe so, yeah.
And I don't think Veolia ever, with the sampler that we bought, I don't think Veolia never followed up and did their own series of samples. But there was a report at some point, and I'm not sure who did it. It was
Okay.
Woodward and Kern or Veolia, where we were for all our, each item on our,
On our permit,
yes, thank you.
right, yeah. And again, I thought I remember reading that we were 80s or 90% on one or two of the items, which didn't seem to make sense, but, because when you read the monthly reports, we're all within the we're within the limits.
That's
We're low.
effluent. That's effluent, though. No, that's not what's coming in, that's what's going out.
Okay,
So the monthly report is what we've processed and that we are meeting our discharge limit. That's not what we're taking in.
and we're meeting it by a factor to where we have, it appears we have additional space.
Correct, but until you do the headworks analysis, you don't know.
Gallonage, but not in limits on the influence side,
Maybe
because of what we're
we need to-
discharging.
Yeah, again, when I look at the report and it says, you know, when it gives the monthly report and gives us the monthly numbers, which you've
That's
got-
what we're discharging, because those are our discharge limits. That's not what's
Well,
coming into the
well,
plant.
right, but that's the bottom line. The bottom line is our permit's based on a discharge. Our permit's not based on what's coming in the front door. Our permit's based on
But
what's going out
if
the
we
back
can
door.
process it in a different manner to be more efficient, so those discharge numbers aren't at their limits or close to their limits, and we can utilize some of the space we have in gallonage, the
Right.
plant would run more effectively, is the point.
Because that's the problem. The permit's for 450,000 gallons a day, and we're not even getting half of that.
We're
Yet the
total-
the concentration of waste is well exceeding the half that we're getting as far as proportion goes. Yes, we're able to treat it, but, I mean, if you look at what happened this month with the ammonia, it's gonna catch up to us sooner or later. And I think the sooner we can get this information,
Well,
the better off we're gonna be able to make decisions moving forward of where to, and again, because you have to look at where you're gonna invest money to make upgrades to the plant.
well, again, if we just look at BOD, our limit here, it says 14, and for October, we were 4. And then it gives average daily, then BOD, this, in pounds, our average monthly limitation is 53, we're at 7. That tells me there's a lot of room there with BOD. The TSS, our limit is monthly is 14, weekly is 18, we're at 5 and 5. Again, that's about a third. And we're at almost half the gallons.
But what's ammonia?
Let me get down to ammonia. Ammonia and nitrogen, again, county, he already admitted this was out of whack for this week. Again, something's going on in the plant.
I just, again,
Yeah.
if it's okay with the board, I'll go ahead and try and get some
I think it's a good
cost
idea.
proposals together.
I think it's a good idea, but to me, I'm not necessarily in the panic mode yet, or even close to it, but I think it's a good idea.
Oh, okay. Great. I already talked about the bylaws and the legislative history and the policies and procedures, so I'll move forward with that. The 232 Stafford Street, St. Mary's Way. Last meeting, I talked to you about the request to not do the 2 8-inch gate insertion valves on the line. And Chris McClure reviewed that request, and because he gave the initial approval and recommendation to the commission to approve the plan, I forwarded you a letter from him stating that because there was a gate valve 50 feet in one direction and 75 in the other, this seemed a little bit redundant to have him do those gate valves at either side of this connection. So that letter should be in your email, and not that he authorized, but he recommended that we accept their request not to include those insertion valves. And it ended up being a 12-inch line in front of the property instead of an 8, so however it was designed was, they had some misinformation in what was in the roadway. So, as far as the Casella Loop design, we're still working with Ty and Bond to go over that Casella Loop design. They're still working on that, working on pressures and the PRV at the base of the hill coming off of the pump station. And then controlling the pressure at the base so that all homes from Route 169 up will be able to do a individual PRV to their home based on what pressure is there. So they're expecting the pressure at the line coming out of the pump station to be over like 195. So that's that. Kleinfelder is still working on the school loop design. They did send over a water age analysis. Southbridge is asking them to review it again and check with Dewberry to make sure it's accurate. And they're also probably at 90% design for the water line itself. So that's still moving forward, and I'll keep you informed as I have more information from that going forward.
What percent is the Casella Loop at?
25 to 30%. But the pumps, as far as what we're responsible for, that's the pump station and that's done, so. Southbridge is working with Ty and Bond, and Chris is, again, your representative to that, working with them to oversee that loop. That's all I have, unless there's any questions.
Just a comment again is that I think we need representation for inspection during that installation of that line.
So, because of how the office is currently staffed with myself, Steve still there, and Norma's leaving, but hopefully she will be replaced in a timely manner, so say by the end of January, we'll have someone in that position. So for the next, from the first week in December through when that position gets replaced, Steve and I should hopefully be able to keep things status quo. Get the administrative assistant position replaced, and then I was talking to Steve about having him be your representative in the field, because there's gonna be oversight over oversight, I believe, because McClure's, I'm not sure, I guess, how you've used McClure to oversee the design on your behalf. I wasn't sure if you were gonna use him to oversee the installation as well, or if you want to use Steve to oversee and do inspections on a day-to-day basis, once that construction begins, because I was talking to somebody from Kleinfelder the other day, and they're not sure how many crews they're gonna have at one time. So you know, there's gonna be at least one crew doing the pump station, one crew doing the Casella loop, and then Kleinfelder beginning the school loop with, I'm gonna say, minimum of 2 crews, depending on how they can space them out, work with highway and police to make sure that there's still good access throughout the town, that they don't bottleneck that whole south side of town up. So there's possibly gonna be 4 crews going at once, so,
What's their plans for REs?
as far as site design, I believe Kleinfeld, resident engineer?
Yeah, for oversight.
Yeah, Kleinfelder will provide their own
Right.
for that. Southbridge, I'm not sure how they're gonna do their inspections, but I'm sure Southbridge will do their own on the Casella loop. And I'm not just, I don't know.
So my point being is there's gonna be an RE at each crew.
Yes.
Okay.
So if you're satisfied with that, then that's fine. That's not how it's been done in the past, so I just,
That's right.
it's up to you guys. If you're happy with going with what the resident engineer does and what you're presented for as-built, then that's great. If you'd like to have somebody go and just double-check a couple of things and give you some information to make sure that everything's going well, I think Steve will be here, and he's capable of doing that.
But the 2 water projects have different, Kleinfelder's doing the school loop, and up here at the center, and who's gonna be in charge of the Casella loop?
Probably Ty and Bond, they're the ones doing the design.
Ty and Bond will have REs out there for their crews.
And they will be working for, who will they work for, the state? Casella?
Yeah, probably both, and so I think it was all 3.
But ultimately, the DEP is mandating this, they've got to produce a product that's approval by the DEP.
I know Alice, and I
So-
just,
There's gonna be I'm assuming there's gonna be weekly progress meetings. Everybody's gonna be up on the up and up, and that's gonna be the contractor, that all parties are concerned, and the design firm. I mean,
Again, I know what the past practice has been, so I go whatever direction the commission wants to go. Luckily this time, we have more discussion about it and figure out what you guys wanna do. If you need more information, let me know.
is there any word on when Kleinfeld was going out to bid? Or Exxon?
I think, again, there's still the water age, and then there's still pressure that's not done yet. So there's still a few moving parts that they have to do.
do you have an overview of where they are with the water edge, what they've determined,
Yes.
which is what?
Kleinfeld had determined that the water age will go down and be better when the school loop is done, based on the directional flow.
It's based on directional flow.
Yes.
Okay.
They're gonna come up H. Putnam Road and send it out Route 20 that way and separate it.
By what means?
Through the pump, I can show, I'll forward you the map. There wasn't, it's not very clear, but it seems like it's gonna be forced up H. Putnam Road and then go from there and split out and go to the J. Hammond Tank that way through North Side Road instead of Stafford Street. And then go down through the center of town, loop around Old Worcester Road to the schools.
You're saying it's gonna be directed. You need a physical means to direct it.
Well, they can shut a valve off on Stafford Street so that it goes up H. Putnam Road instead of going Stafford Street to J. Hammond to the tank. And then
And what
go
happens
to
if-
the tank and backfeed down.
What happens when that valve gets mistakenly opened at some point? What happens to the system?
Well, then it's not directional anymore.
And
And
what
there's a
happens to
water
the
age
system?
issue, yes.
Just a water age issue, no pressure issue?
No, no, because the pressure's gonna be controlled by the elevation in the tank,
Okay.
and it should be able to get to that pressure. Again, they're doing pressure and water age separate, so the pressure isn't done, completed yet.
More importantly, what's the water age down at the middle school?
I'd have to look at the plan. And again, the values that they supplied, Heather had some questions on, so she's asking them to
Yeah.
review them before it goes any further, and asking Dewberry to kind of double check, so.
Okay.
But, if it stays that way, I'll get you that information, so you know exactly how they're making it directional and what they're doing, and make sure there's no concerns.
And I guess if the J. Hammond tank gets proven to be too small and go on to our tank, so then how do they directionally flow the water so that you've got turnover on Stafford Street and Northside Road if in fact they are making everything go up? It's H. Putnam Road, correct?
Yes.
Stafford?
Yes.
Stafford, H. Putnam, 20 tank, and then the water's gonna die in Northside Road. It's a 12-inch line, and it's almost 60,000 gallons between
Not if
Route
that's
20.
how the MTA is getting fed.
The MTA is gonna get fed back that way, right, which they use, what, 20,000 gallons a day? Believe it or not,
I'd have
I
to
always
double
thought,
check
I
that.
always thought 6W was the higher water user. It's not, it's 5E. 5E uses more water.
But again, we can,
No, that's the engineer's job.
I'll have that information
Right,
for you.
right, right.
I didn't want to present it when there's going to be another reiteration or until it was definite that everyone is in agreement that
Right.
these numbers are valid and this is what they're moving forward with. So when I get that, unless you want to see what the current iteration is, I'll forward that to you and you can look at it, but it's still a moving target. It's not set in stone yet.
Again, it's that school valley that worries me the most during the summer months. If in fact they're just gonna turn the faucet on and let everything balance out. So, okay. Anything else new, any old, or any other business items unknown at the time of posting? Next meeting is December 4th, 2017. As you had mentioned earlier, Peter. Okay. Then I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Right on time.
Any,
How about that, huh?
any discussion on that matter? Hearing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
So be it. Done.